If you've ever been on an airplane and experienced heavy turbulence, or maybe even hit an air pocket, you know that it can be quite anxiety-producing. There's an interesting article in Business Insider by a commercial airline pilot by the name of Patrick Smith. He flies Boeing 757s and Boeing 767s. And he's very much aware that the flyer's number one anxiety is turbulence, and how dangerous it seems to all of us as passengers. But Smith argues that from the perspective of the pilot, turbulence is a mere blip. He writes, "For all intents and purposes, a plane cannot be flipped upside down, thrown into a tailspin, or otherwise flung from the sky by even the mightiest gust or air pocket. Conditions might be annoying and uncomfortable, but the plane is not going to crash. Turbulence is an aggravating nuisance for everybody, including the crew, but it's also, for lack of a better term, normal." You see, pilots see it as a convenience issue, and they change altitude basically for us, for the comfort of us as passengers. No one likes turbulence in the air. But in our modern world, it seems to be that there's even more turbulence on the ground these days. And so let us look at that second reading, Paul's letter to the Romans, where he says to the Corinthians, but also to us, "I should like you to be free of anxieties." Yet according to the National Institute of Mental Health, 40 million adults in the U.S. are affected by anxiety, and millions more are affected with depression-related disorders. And in the midst of that, we as a nation are also deeply in the throes of our deadliest ever drug epidemic, with 90 Americans dying every single day of an overdose of opiates. Now, there's a variety of reasons for modern anxiety. Our need to be in control, our expectations, our very high expectations of life, our frenetic lifestyle, they're just a few. But let's not focus on them in this Mass tonight. Let's focus today on how we respond to Paul's exhortation that he would like us to be free of anxiety, and what we can do to be more at peace individually, as families, as a people. New York Times columnist David Leonhardt says that we all need to take a regular Schultz hour. Well, he explains. He says that when George Shultz was Secretary of State in the 1980s, he liked to carve out 1 hour each week for quiet reflection. He would sit down in his office with a pad and paper and pen, and he closed the door, told his secretary to interrupt him only if two people called. One would be his wife and the other the president. Well, George Shultz just turned 96 last year, so perhaps his hour of quiet helped him live this long. But in our day, I certainly believe that 1 hour a week of quiet is far, far from enough. With our ever-changing technology keeping us connected 24/7, we live in a tremendously frenetic culture. And unfortunately, rather than turning to a Schultz hour, so many turn to alcohol and marijuana and prescription drugs in order to slow down and break free of the anxiety produced often by the way we live. But there are alternatives to this drug culture. Wise men and women through the centuries have encouraged a Schultz hour, but for more than once a week. Jesus often went out to the desert to pray. Recent studies are showing that taking time for silence restores the nervous system. It helps us sustain energy. It conditions our minds to be more adaptive and responsive to the complex environments in which so many of us now live and work and lead. A regular meditation practice has been shown in numerous studies to help anxiety, depression, and other psychiatric conditions. In addition, the practice of meditation has an enduring impact, reducing negative mood states during everyday life. And most importantly, the benefits of meditation do not end like the benefits from alcohol or marijuana or prescription drugs. It doesn't end after you get that high. The high on those drugs subsides. The positive effect of meditation is pervasive throughout the day, even when individuals are not meditating. So there's so much research written today that's telling us that a deeper spiritual life and a stronger faith can actually lead to concrete results in mental health improvement and stress reduction. And these results are not just anecdotal. There's evidence that it works. Now, faith and spirituality are abstract concepts, but faith generates optimism, it enriches interpersonal relationships, it creates support systems, and it enhances the quality of life. Faith and spirituality provide us a sense of purpose and allow us to connect to something greater than ourselves and enable us to basically release control, lower expectations, and be at peace with the normal messiness and the normal turbulence of life. You see, through faith, we can discover what is most important to us. And being able to recognize what matters most allows us to focus our energy and attention on those issues and not waste time on unimportant concerns. By establishing what is most important, we often discover our sense of purpose and our reason for existing. Now, meditation cannot remove the external stress. It helps improve resiliency and adaptability during the challenging times that all of us face in life. As John Kabat-Zinn, professor of medicine at Massachusetts General, says, meditation cannot stop the waves, but it teaches us how to surf. Turbulence in life is normal. And just like any plane in the sky, we on Earth can make it through without it turning our lives upside down. There are more ways to face the messiness of life than smoking that joint or opening that prescription bottle or pouring that next drink. The relief of those is temporary. The high wears off, and one is still stuck with the same pains and fears that one is trying to avoid. The difficulties of life have to be faced head on, and facing them with a deeper spirituality and faith is a much better response than the latest drug craze that is causing our nation such horrendous difficulties. So before taking a drink or lighting up or popping that pill, all of us might be very, very surprised how effective sitting in silence can be. Who said that? Be silent and know that I am God. There's a great spiritual writer who also says, peace comes from within. Don't seek it without.